Hello everyone. Okay, so welcome to the Cookalong Live. I'll be slow, hopefully. So if you want to have a quick look on the table, just a quick run through the ingredients so you know we've got everything. So we have some flour. I'm gonna presume you haven't weighed stuff out, so you can do that, that's fine. So for the white sauce, need some flour, some milk, some butter. For the actual mince part, the mince sauce, if you like, or the meat sauce, pardon me, not mint. We have some mince, some carrots, some onion, garlic, some Worcestershire sauce, some herbs, some tomatoes. I've actually got some wine, but you don't need the wine if you don't want to. The equipment, which I put on Instagram already, but you literally need a frying pan, a saucepan, a whisk, and a knife. I think we're about good. I want a grater, all right? I think we're about good. Just so you know, I'm not gonna bake this one, because obviously, you know, to sit and watch it for half an hour is a bit dull. But what you'll come out with is a ready to bake lasagna, and at the end I'll explain how to do it. Okay, so you need to presume that I've washed my hands, which I have. Okay, so you know how that works. Just make sure you have washed your hands, done it for 20 seconds, and you're nice and clean. Make sure you have an apron as well. Okay, so hopefully you're ready to go. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to remove stuff to the side that I don't need at the moment. What we're going to do first then is we're going to make the meat sauce first. All right, so for that, you're going to need the vegetables. And move that out of the way. You need the vegetables, the tomatoes, the herbs, the Worcestershire sauce, and the meat. Okay, and that's about it. So I'm going to move everything else for a second. If you're using wine, you'll need the wine as well. Okay, so let's start. I'll do it as slow as I can. What you can do is, which is unusual, is we're actually going to grate the veg. So rather than chop it, and I've got a knife, I actually take the ends off. We're actually going to grate the veg. Now the reason for that is, and if I did this in school, students don't like carrots very often, I don't want to use carrots. But actually, if you grate the carrot and it goes in, it adds a nice sweetness to it. So it's fairly important. If you don't have it, it's not a problem. But if you do have the carrot, then do use it. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use the grater, and we're going to need the cheese part of the grater. All right, it's pretty standard, just there. So all I'm going to do then, I'm not going to peel the carrot actually, because there's no real point, because it's fine. If yours is dirty, you may need to peel it. You will need to take the ends off. So just take the ends off, and all we're going to do, put them in there, is just grate the carrot. Okay. Don't grate your finger, this can be tricky. If you're worried about grating your finger, there's not actually an answer really, other than if you feel a little bit unsafe and it's getting a bit near your finger, just get rid of that piece of carrot. It is worth grating the carrot. It really is better than chopping it, because if you chop it, you find that you get crunchy bits, often crunchy bits of carrot in the lasagna, which is not kind of always great. So there's our grated carrot. Just going to get rid of that. All right, there. What we're then going to do is we're actually going to grate the onion, which I know is a bit weird, but it just means it's the same size. So let's just peel the onion. Just a reminder how to peel the onion. So the onion grows in the ground like that. That's the root. It doesn't matter too much with this because you're going to grate it, but it's still worth keeping the root on. Take the top off, cut it in half through the root, and the reason you do that, it just gives you more corners to peel. Just grab the skin. If it's a bit tricky, or sometimes it can be a bit dry there, just go to the next layer and just pull it like that. Remember, work clean, so I've actually got a little basket this time. Okay. So, and we're just going to grate the onion. Again, if your eyes water, there's no answer, unfortunately, just your eyes are going to water. So, let's grate the onion. Again, when you get to the point where it gets a bit dodgy for your fingers, that's fine. And actually, it's fine anyway because you're coming near the root, so it's worth throwing that away. It looks like it gets a bit mushy, this, and it does get a bit mushy, but because you're going to fry it in a second, it doesn't really matter. Okay, and there's that. Right, then we need some garlic in there as well. We're going to fry these together so you can put it together, that's not an issue. Then have garlic, as you know, this is called a bulb of garlic. The clove is the segments. The way to do this sometimes can be a bit tricky. I'm probably heavier than you are. But if you put it on its side and just lean on it, quite heavy, it will crack. Okay, and then a little bit, and then it's easy for the segments to come out. Okay, so I'm actually going to use a couple of garlic cloves. Put as much or as little in as you fancy. I like it quite garlicky. So again, just remember the procedure. So take one end off, take the other end off, and just peel either with your knife or with your fingers. You've got an option here. You can either chop this really finely or you can grate it. If you have a fine grater, you could grate it. If you haven't got a fine grater, then maybe just give it a quick chop. I'm seeing if I've got a fine grater, just not sure I have. Okay, so I'm just going to chop mine, as my grater has vanished, but that's fine. Saying that, if you have this kind of grater, it's known as a box grater, for cheese, you often on this one, that works quite well. This is normally for, you know, for things like garlic and if we want a finer grate. So give that a little grate. See how quick that was. Is everyone okay? Any questions so far? Right, we can see. No, we're all good. Fine. Scrape all that out. Okay. At this point, we're going to start the cooking process. So, anytime you cook, I know this is kind of logical, hopefully logical, if you look at this cooker that I have here, I wouldn't put a saucepan or a frying pan, for example, on this one or this one because they're too small. It's going to take longer to cook. So therefore, use the bigger ones, and that's the same for gas as well. All right, so we're going to turn this on. There's no reason you can't cook this fairly high, okay, particularly. So I'm going to turn mine on full power. Again, it's difficult because your cooker could be different. All right, so if you find it cooks too quick or it's burning, to turn it down. Okay, obviously with these electric ones, it's not too bad putting it on full power. So what we're going to do is put some oil in, about a tablespoon of oil, any oil, olive oil or just regular oil is fine. And then what's going to happen is you're just going to put all these three ingredients, so the carrot, the onion and the garlic, into there. And we're literally just going to fry those together, okay? And you'll hear that starting to fry soon. Right, we're going to do a bit of multitasking now. So don't forget, clear down. Make sure you're always nice and tidy. There you go. Is everyone all right? Any questions? Amazing. While we're waiting, as we let that heat up a little bit, a little quick quiz, and there's a prize for this. So Miss Gibbs will have to tell me who gives me the right answer. But there's a fairly unusual ingredient in Worcestershire sauce, or Worcestershire sauce, so who knows how you say it. It's unusual, you wouldn't expect it. If you know the answer, put it in the comments and you can win one of my cookbooks, or one of the cookbooks that we wrote to fund the food department. Okay, so the first person that says the right answer will win one of those. Okay, so this Gibbs will keep an eye on that. As that's happening, you can just let that sort itself out. I'm just going to explain to you how to make the white sauce. There are two ways of making white sauce, or the cheese sauce. One way is, if you like, the proper way that you learn in catering college, where you make what's called a roux, which is butter and flour, mix it to a paste, and you add the milk, and you make a white sauce. That's quite a lot of faff, and that can go wrong really easily. There's another way of doing it, which I'm going to show you, which is much simpler, but has exactly the same outcome. All right, makes no difference at all. Okay, so the way that works is this. I ask you to get a saucepan. So on your saucepan, I always put the saucepan on the scale, because why dirty something else? In the saucepan, if you remember the ingredients, so it's 25 grams of flour that I've actually weighed out earlier, as it happens. 25 grams of flour go in there. We then need 25 grams of butter, and that goes in the same saucepan at the same time. So 25 grams, oh, 24, not bad guess. Just by the way, when you're measuring this, it does matter. All right, so if you kind of sort of guess and think, oh, that will kind of do, you'll find it's either too thin or too thick. All right, so it does actually matter. So we've got 25 grams of flour. Doesn't matter what flour, by the way. It can be self-raising, plain, strong flour. It's completely irrelevant. All right, it doesn't get a lot of flour. You then put in your 25 grams of butter. You then want 300 millilitres of milk. Again, any milk, full fat milk, skimmed, semi-skimmed, whatever. Just checking we're all good. Right, so I can hear a bit of a noise. So 300 mils of milk.
Question, are we supposed to be frying the onions and that now?
Yes. So if you did the same as what I'm doing. So at the moment then, just a quick recap. If you can hear if I shut up for a second. Okay, so tablespoon of oil, frying the onions, the carrots and the garlic at the same time. So you want those to get a little bit softened before and get quite hot before we add in the meat. While that's happening, you can start making the sauce if you want to, or getting the sauce ready, that's absolutely fine. So 25 grams of flour, 25 grams of butter, 300 millilitres of milk. Okay, and what you're going to do then with this milk, 300 mils, is you pour the milk in the saucepan as well with all that. All right, it looks really weird, bit lumpy, bit strange, be perfect by the end. Okay, so let's get rid of this. Quick clear down. Okay, let me give. Anyone got any answer yet about the Worcestershire sauce?
Nope.
No? Oh man. Right, I know this might be a little bit tricky, but we're going to do double whammy at the moment. All right, so that's frying away, that's fine. I've weighed out all the sauce ingredients. What I'm now going to do is actually put this onto the heat. Okay, so I'm watching that fry, I'm doing the sauce. What you want to do then, again in the ingredients, I said to ask you to get a whisk. This is actually quite important, so you might, if you've got someone else with you, they might need to be stirring this mixture while you're doing this. Right, if you're on your own, you've got to do two things at once, okay, but that's cooking for you. What we're going to do is, we are going to stir the flour, milk and butter together on the heat, and I've turned mine onto the highest heat as well, but it is absolutely vital that you whisk it the whole time. If you don't, it will go lumpy and it will burn. Okay, so it is important you whisk it the whole time. Now this is going to take about a minute probably to do, so be patient with this. Just to completely bore you, what happens is there's a chemical process called gelatinization, which is the flour, the starch molecules essentially explode. They give out like a gel type substance, but that only happens when the mixture is heated. All right, so you can stand there forever whisking it and nothing would happen. You put a heat in here, it will thicken. All right, so quick recap then. I'm frying my onion, my garlic, and my grated carrot. I just want to fry that obviously until it's kind of cooked and softened and it's got nice and hot. At the same time, I'm whisking the flour, the butter, and the milk. Notice, by the way, no cheese at this point. I'm not making a cheese sauce. There's no cheese at all at this point. No seasoning, anything. Okay, so. Whoops.
Neem asks, what are you making?
Who says that?
Neem.
Neve, have a guess. What do you reckon we're making? All right, so have a guess, and I'll give you a clue. So there's going to be mince going in there, and there'll be some tomatoes in there. Have a guess. Oh, another clue. If you need a clue. So I'm not going to answer. I'll wait for Neve to. Okay. Obviously, doing two things can be tricky. If you're struggling with doing two things and that's cooking too quick, just take it off and turn it down. It's not a problem, all right? Remember, you're in control of the dials, right? Just because I said put it on high, if that's obviously cooking too quick, as you're making the sauce, then just turn that down. It isn't an issue at all. Great, so this is starting to heat, get warmer now, and I can tell that because the butter's starting to melt. but nothing will happen until this actually does get hot and it boils. Alright, be patient. Oh, if I avoid splashing it everywhere, it'd be good. Any takers on the Worcestershire sauce? No? That's it. So the cookbook is unclaimed. Well, I'll tell you what, once I upload it to YouTube later, if anyone does get it, first one comments, that's fine. We'll do it that way as well. You'll see that once the meat goes in, it's a pretty quick. You're done. Once the meat goes in, we'll for about 5 minutes of doing the whole thing. As you can see from the white sauce at the moment, you can tell it's getting hotter because obviously it's steaming. And when I do this in class, students say, but it's not, nothing's happening, right? Be patient. It does take a while for the gelatinisation to happen.
Emily asked, is it vinegar?
Sorry?
Emily asked, is it vinegar that's in the Worcestershire sauce?
Oh, no. Sorry. Well, that's not particularly unusual, is it, the ingredient? It's a really unusual ingredient. They wouldn't really think that's necessarily in there. The reason, by the way, oh, I'll tell you what, before I say that, can we just have a quick zoom in on this? Now, you probably can't necessarily tell at this point, but this is starting to thicken. You see how it's starting to heat up because you see the steam, but you do need to keep whisking at this point. Now, as it heats up, so remember, I put in flour, milk and butter, and what will come out is what's called a nice white sauce. Please don't buy the jar stuff, it's generally pretty hideous. And if you look at the ingredients, it's got like 20 ingredients in. How is that possible? It's got 20 ingredients in, who knows? But if you make it yourself, you know what's in there. Great. I'm going to have a quick zoom on that then, Miss Gibbs. Can you see? Right, I'm going to get a spatula. I don't mean a spatula, I mean I've got a very cute ladle. And can you see how nice and thick that is? Now this is important. Now that's boiled and thickened, that can now come off the heat. Don't keep cooking it, that's all good. Right, we're now going to put the meat in. So, got the mince, literally put the whole thing in, not forgetting there's a piece of paper on the bottom. And what you now need to do is mash the mince up. And stir it around. Right, now this is important for flavour. What we want to happen is that we want the meat to actually go brown. And that is really important for flavour. If you just put all the liquid in now and just cooked it, it's all a bit, it's okay, but it just isn't the same as actually frying the meat. Alright, so again, frying the meat. Right, that's fine, that can just fry for a little bit. What I want to show you now, just quickly, is the cheese. Now, as you hopefully know, with a lasagna, you have cheese sauce and you have cheese on the top as well. Okay, so you need to make a bit of a decision, really. As I said on the recipe, you can either have all cheddar, all Parmesan, or half and half. Half and half is actually quite nice, but it's whatever you have. Notice I put the cheese in now. I don't put the cheese sauce in when it's cooking. The reason for that is that the cheese sauce, if you put the cheese in on the heat, it can get oily. You can make the cheese go oily. Alright, so that's never a great idea. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grate some of this cheese. Let me just wash the cheese grater very quickly. Right, so just going to grate some cheese. You might have cheese that's in a bag, that's fine. So remember, whatever cheese you have, half needs to go in the sauce and half goes on the top. All right, so whatever cheese mixture you have, half and half, right? So half in the sauce and half actually on the top later. Right, I'm not going to use all this cheese, so that's crumbling. So let's put that out of the way just for 1 second. I have some Parmesan as well, which has got quite a nutty flavour. So let's do some of the Parmesan as well. But again, if you've got one or the other, doesn't matter. Right. What we're now going to do is put this cheese, or most of the cheese, in the cheese sauce and just mix it in. Now, This won't actually melt at this point, and it doesn't matter, right? So the sauce now looks a bit lumpy, but that's fine. We're going to bake it in the oven later, no problem. What we're missing is a bit of seasoning, okay? And that actually is important for both the meat and the sauce. So we want a little pinch of salt, a little pinch of pepper, and also in here, pinch of salt, pinch of pepper, or the other way around in that instance. Okay. Right, so let's ignore the sauce for the moment. As you can see here then, what we're looking for is that all these red bits to actually go. We don't really want that because it, like I say, it's not, it won't be cooked in the frying pan, but it does add to the flavour a lot by frying it, okay? Okay, so while it's happening, what we can do in preparation is, if you have a tin of tomatoes, just get them open. Also be careful. Right. So get the tomatoes open. What we do now is literally we're going to add essentially our seasonings in a minute now. So we've got tomatoes as like the main thing that pulls it together. I've got some oregano. You can put other herbs in, doesn't really matter at all. Oregano is traditional. Worcestershire sauce. Still haven't got the answer for that. I'm not going to say either. And I've got some wine. You don't have to have wine, it's not an integral thing. Don't worry about cooking with wine. It's not a thing we might put wine in. It's all about the flavour. So what the wine will do, the alcohol will burn off really quick in about 10 seconds when you put it in. But it gives you a nice background flavour, and it is all about flavour. All right, you don't have to have it, the world won't end, but if you do have it, perfect. Right, as you can see now, this is now all brown. There might be the odd little red bit, but I think we were more or less there. Okay, the order of this matters. If you are using wine, put the wine in now. All right, so 2 tablespoons. 1 tablespoon, 2 tablespoons. And you do need to allow that to simmer. All right, if you just put the tomato straight in, it will just taste you will taste that alcohol edge, and that's not that pleasant actually. So allow that just to simmer, and you virtually want the juice or the liquid of the wine to evaporate, but the flavour would have gone in, all right? You can at this point, it doesn't matter too much, add any herbs, about a teaspoon of oregano, don't want too much, or be quite overpowering, and some Worcestershire sauce, and we're still waiting for Worcestershire sauce. Just by the way, it doesn't matter what it's made out of, you can tell me this at some other point, but the Japanese a while ago discovered, you know, we have salt and sweet elements on our tongue. There's another flavour called umami in Japanese, which is a savoury flavour. All right, now that's why we sometimes crave savoury things like meat or proteins, whenever that may be. Umami, there's lots of umami in Worcestershire sauce and loads in Marmite. It's that very kind of savoury flavour. Okay, so this really adds Worcestershire sauce. Again, don't have it, not the end of the world, but you can taste the difference. So with this, we'll have a few splashes. Again, probably a tablespoon or so. Okay. If we want to look in there, you can see now most of the liquid's gone. There's a little bit of juice in there, but that's not, it's fine. Most of that 2 tablespoons of liquid of the wine I put in is now gone. Tomatoes, they now go in. Keep hold of the tin just for a second. You might need that in a minute, and I'll show you why in a sec. Okay, stir that around. Now people, obviously, lasagna is an Italian dish, but the way that we eat it in the UK, you would never find in Italy ever. Okay, in Italy, this would be called a ragu, and it would have probably 3 meats in, pork, beef and veal very often, lots of red wine, it'd be stewed for hours and hours. We have a version, all right? So actually there was no need at all, and there's really no benefit of simmering spag bowl for ages. It doesn't really do that much, you know, nothing particularly changes. One thing I haven't put in, which I did forget, was tomato puree, which on the recipe. I forgot tomato puree, helpfully. So what I've got is, I have got some tomato ketchup, which now sounds weird, but the idea of the tomato puree is that it gives kind of an intense kind of tomatoey hit, and actually the tomato puree is essentially boiled down tomatoes with a bit of salt and sugar in. So this would actually do something very similar. You don't need much at all, just a squidge. That will thicken it as well slightly, which is what we want. Right, so I would say that at this point you need to judge on how thick it is. You actually do want a meat sauce to be liquidy-ish, because what will happen is we put the pasta in raw, all right, so it needs some liquid to soak into the pasta. So if yours is very dry, so you can just look at this 1 second, Miss Gibbs. When you pour the thing through, if that's quite dry, there's not much liquid going on, add some liquid. Even if it's tap water, that's fine. If you still have a tin, notice inside my tin, there's still some tomato in there. So literally just get a little splash of water, give it a little kind of whoosh around, and put that in as well. If you need to, you might not need to. Right, just don't make it too watery, but you do need some juice in there. All right, we're gonna give it a very quick boil, just so we know we're all good. Just be mindful then, that is not cooked, right? But we are gonna bake this in the oven when it will finish cooking, all right? So just be mindful of that before you start kind of tasting it or whatever the case may be. All right, and then we're good. So, let me just have a quick sort out. I'll show you how to put the lasagna together and then we're done. So. Okay, let's grate some more cheese in a second, but that's fine. Here is my lasagna dish. Here is the lasagna sheet. Well, people don't often understand the lasagna sheets are dry, and that's normal because when it bakes in the oven, the liquid from the meat sauce will soak in and cook the pasta. There is an order to this. So from the bottom up, it goes meat sauce, pasta, white sauce. I mean, do it again. All right, so meat sauce, pasta, white sauce, meat sauce, pasta, white sauce, cheese on top. So in practice, this is what we're doing. Wait a minute, is everyone all right? Any questions? We all good? So here's my meat sauce. Half of it, 50%, just guess, goes in. So meat sauce, pasta. Now, this is where it's tricky, because notice that's too big. It is important, and this is important, do not overlap the thing. So what happens is when you eat it, you'll have, because it's like a double layer, you'll get a crispy pasta, that's not great. These are snappable, all right? If you've got a proper lasagna dish, like you can get one from Dolmio, which is designed to fit these in a nice row, but I've just snapped mine. Can you see? So it's not overlapping. These will expand, all right? So don't worry if there's a few gaps, it's not a problem at all. Just snap it just to fill in. Right, so we have meat, pasta, then half of the white sauce. Don't worry if you think, well, I haven't got much white sauce. As long as you get some over there, when it bakes in the oven, it will sort itself out. It will all spread, it will all be wonderful, it will all taste delicious. So spread that out. Right, so meat, pasta, white sauce. The last 50% of meat. Spread that out. Pasta. So we're going to have the same process, pasta, snap it where needed. There we go. And then we have the white sauce. Put that over the top. Oops. Now it's going to get, now we've got loads left in there. Let's get a scraper. If you haven't got one of these, it's worth investing in one of these. I mean, not much, a few pounds. Really good for this kind of thing, cake making and scraping. If you can, just spread it all over. Don't wait again. Then it doesn't matter because when it's in the oven, it will sort itself out. You know, as in it will the cheese sorts and melt slightly. Okay, what we now do, as I said already, if you have any more, we should have some cheese left, whether that be cheddar, Parmesan, or a mixture of both. All you then want to do, let's put this over there. Get the grater again. I've got a little bit of cheese left here. I'll put a little bit more on. Away. Okay, so let's just grate a little bit more Parmesan over the top. And I've got a little bit of cheddar over the top. Okay, That will do, don't go too mad. Spread it over. 10-second clear down, so you can look at the final product in a clean table. And have a look, there we go. And we're done. Now, that will take, lasagna is a weird thing. Think about it, most things are cooked in here, so the white sauce is cooked, the meat sauce is cooked, it's just the pasta you're cooking essentially. Put this in the oven for 20 minutes, it'll be done. Put it in the oven for 40 minutes, it will also be done. All right, so it's going to go about 180, it's about gas mark 4, gas mark 5, thereabouts. At least 20 minutes. It will be pretty obvious when it's done, it would be bubbly and the top will be golden. If you're still not sure, it's the pasta you want to make sure is cooked. Put a knife in, make sure the pasta's cooked. Also, make sure, like this one is obviously quite full, I would put this on a baking tray before it goes in the oven because it will bubble and you don't, it will go in the oven and burning and that's all a bit of a nightmare. So, we're done, all right? If anyone does know the answer to the Worcestershire sauce, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, when I upload it to YouTube, you can tell me. Then. Hope that was okay. I am planning to do an YouTube upload to show you how to make sourdough bread by Wednesday. That's the plan. I'll let you know what we're going to do on Friday. Other than that, stay safe. Hope you're all okay, and I'll see you all soon.